Number 40 is Abra. The Pokedex goes as far as to say this Pokemon sleeps like 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day. Um, and it's such a cool Pokemon. Its hidden ability is Magic Guard, which is also another one of my favorite hidden abilities. It prevents all damage except from direct attacks. Very few Pokemon have that. Abra's I liked Abra not because of the first generation where psychic types were just so overpowered because they didn't really have a weakness or anything. But I liked Abra for the pure fact that in third generation, well, in any generation, you can. I don't know when the um, the elemental moves got introduced, but whenever they did get introduced, you could breed an Abra to know Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, and Fire Punch. Not that you would really want to, because its physical attack is so inferior to its special attack. But, in the third generation, when everything, whether or not something was physical or special, depended on the type, back in third generation, ice, electric, and fire were all special attacks. So you could breed an Abra with these moves, and it would base they they would allow the Abra to have quite a wide move coverage for really high special attacks. You'd have an Abra that has a high special attack, has a nature that improves special attack, maybe even some IVs in special attack as well. And then you EV train it for special attack, which is much harder in that generation than any later ones. But then you teach it all of these moves that are special. So it knows Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, and Fire Punch. And then when you get it to be an Alakazam, you teach it Psychic, and then you're done. Like really, like that's all you have to do is teach it Psychic, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, and Fire Punch, and you have an Alakazam with a crazy move pool. Like it's got such a good wide type coverage, and it's all special attack, which plays right into its strength, and it then starts owning everything. So that's Abra, and that's number 40. Number 39 is Heracross. Now, this Pokemon is on this list because it's bug fighting, one of the first of that type. Maybe the only one. I think it's. Might not be. Oh no, there's grass fighting. Never mind. I think it's the only one who's bug fighting. It's actually a pretty decent combo. It does have a ×4 weakness to flying. But it does have some pretty good abilities. But its design is what I really like the most about it. It's like a Hercules beetle. And it just looks awesome. It's got a nice design. It's it's a second generation Pokemon. And it received a Mega in the 6th generation, which also looks amazing. So this Pokemon is amazing, and just keeps getting better and better as time goes on. So that would be number 39, Heracross. Number 38 is Scolipede. Scolipede. I like this Pokemon because it's fucking. Its typing is not really necessarily original. I mean, Beedrill was also bug poison. There have been many bug poisons in between now and this one. But this one has some pretty good abilities. Poison Point, and then its hidden ability, Speed Boost. Speed Boost is a good ability with the increased speed at the end of every turn. It's got a really amazing shiny sprite, which actually looks way, way, way much better than its normal sprite. And I like its evolutionary line. I really do like everything about it. And it's, for a bug type, it's got some pretty good stats. It's got a really, really high speed. It's got well over 100 on speed. It's at 100 on attack. It's just got some really amazing stats. um, so that would be number 38. Number 37 is Toxicroak. I really started using this Pokemon when I was using a Zoroark. Uh, I always had Toxicroak in the back of my party for for the only reason of the fact that it's like one of the only types out there that actually has a times 4 weakness to Psychic, which would mean that it would encourage people to use Psychic types against it. Um, and with Zoroark being a dark type, psychics wouldn't hit it at all. So you would actually be able to get an advantage over things that had psychic type by being a Zoroark, having a Zoroark pretend to be a Toxicroak. You would send in the Zoroark disguised, and Toxicroak would be good. But since then, I've actually started to like Toxicroak just on its own. It's got a very interesting type besides the whole weakness to psychic thing. It's got an interesting pool of abilities, Poison Touch being one of them. Um, Krogunk is pretty interesting. I think the idea of having, like, these guys are obviously based off of, like, poisonous frogs, like poison dart frogs and stuff like that. And just having these Pokemon that are based off of real life animals um, is just amazing. Like, you can see when Game Freak has these bright ideas, like Toxicroak and other things like it. Um, and it's just an interesting Pokemon. It's got an interesting design. And that's why I placed it at number 37. Number 36 is Magikarp. And you guys may be wondering why Magikarp is 36, whereas some of the ones that are underneath it are actually much better than it, or would be higher on your list. And I just find this thing amusing. It's hilarious. In the games, that are animated, like X and Y, this thing just sits there on the ground and flops. It always flops. It looks really, really pathetic. I think it flops in Coliseum and XD as well. I think it just flops in any 3D representation of it. And it's hilarious. They even based a game around the Magikarp flopping around on the first Pokemon Stadium. Like, it's just based around it and its splash move. Like, they've humorized it. And I probably fell for it just because of that. It's such an amusing Pokemon, and it's actually pretty decent in battle, despite being looked at as such a weak Pokemon. It has probably one of the smallest move pools available, besides Unknown. Um, but its flail is really, really good. Get one with a high attack and stuff, and you give it that item that guarantees that if you hit it and it goes down, it would faint with one hit. It holds on to life with 1 HP. Flails as powerful as you can possibly get it to be, and then you can flail everybody to death with this Magikarp. It's an amazing Pokemon. Not the best, but it's good in its own right. Not to mention absolutely downright hilarious. So number 36 goes to Magikarp. Number 35 is Durant. I fell in love with this Pokemon because of its bug steel typing. And this was during the time when during Black and White, I was trying to build a team, not necessarily a actually competitive battling team, but a team that I would go on every once in a while and battle with, that I would enter competitions with and stuff like that. And I looked to Durant, the Bug Steel type, for that because it had because Steel type has just a great wide variety of defensive capabilities. And then the Bug cancels out most weaknesses with the exception of the fire. And Durant was the fastest Bug Steel type, besides like Genesect or something, and Genesect's a legendary, so you can't usually use that. But it was one of the fastest, and it outsped all of the fire types. Um, the only one that got anywhere close was Infernape, and it was one base stat higher. It has a base speed of 109, and Infernape has a base speed of 108. So Durant is faster than all fire types, which is good for it because then it can learn a ground type move or rock type move, and then you can use it go first and try and knock out the fire type before it can kill you. So that was why I looked to Durant, and I just haven't lost interest in it since. It's got a nice design, love its typing, just like it in general. So number 35 is Durant. Number 34 is Espeon. The reason why this one is on the list is probably because it was one of the first Pokemon I ever played with. That and Umbreon. Because the first game I ever played was Pokemon Coliseum. So Espeon and Umbreon were my starters. And so I kind of have a close bond with these guys because they were the first Pokemon I ever played any kind of game with. So, I don't actually actively use it. It's very, very hard to get because you have to get its happiness up during the day, and stuff like that. But its secondary ability, Magic Bounce, is pretty cool. And it's just really cool. Some of its Pokedex entries are also interesting, like the one from X. The tip of its forked tail quivers when it is predicting its opponent's next move. So much like its psychic typeness, it can predict the opponent's move if its tail is quivering. And then its Dex entries from Y is its fur is so sensitive it can feel minutes shift in the air and predict the weather and its foes' thoughts. Also going back to the whole predicting its opponent's moves, but that it can predict it through its fur. But it is just so sensitive to everything, time passing, weather, just everything. It's extremely psychic. It's just a cool Pokemon, and I like it. So it's number 34. Number 34 is Sharpedo. I like this Pokemon because of the way it's designed. I like its shiny sprite. I also like the fact that it has its normal ability is Rough Skin, which is one of my favorite abilities. Speed Boost is its hidden ability, which is also another one of my favorite abilities. It's got an interesting type, Water Dark. We saw that a couple times in the third generation with Sharpedo and Crawdont. But still, so it does have quite a few weaknesses, and stuff like that. But it does have an interesting design, and it's a pretty cool Pokemon. I like its ability, and that's, I like its line. Carvana's pretty interesting as well. But, so, number 33 is Sharpedo. Number 32 is Mawile. Before the 6th generation came out, Mawile was a pure steel type, which was very awesome. Which means it had quite a few resistances. I think something like 12 resistances. Two types that would be able to attack it normally, and then 3 weaknesses. So just that by itself made it an amazing Pokemon. And the fact that it was steel typed, pretty much almost guaranteed that it would be a favorite of mine. It had some good abilities, Hyper Cutter and Intimidate, and then now it has Sheer Force. Um, so that's cool. I like its shiny sprite. And then it gets this nice, neat Mega Evolution, which makes it look even much more cooler. And now it has the Fairy type, which makes it just that much better. Um, so it now has quite a few weakness. It's got a few weaknesses, but the Fairy type cancels out its fighting weakness, which is good. And then it's got ground and fire as its. I think it's only two weaknesses, which makes it a good typing. Um, but it's just a really good and interesting Pokemon, and I've liked it since it first came out. So that's number 32. Coming in at number 31 is Greninja. Um, I really did like this Pokemon even from the very beginning. Following all of the X and Y news, I thought I was going to pick Finnegan at first. And then once the secondary forms came out, I'm like, I don't really want to go with that anymore. I'm gonna go with Froakie. And then when the final forms came out, I ended up deciding on Chespin, um, which was odd because I don't normally go for the grass types, but I liked Chespin's form so much. But back to Greninja. Greninja is also like all of the sixth generation starters had amazing designs and amazing thought behind them. And Greninja is no different. Greninja is awesome. The water dart type is a nice introduction to the starters. Um, and its shiny sprite is absolutely amazing with it black with that red tongue. It just looks absolutely amazing. But what really made it be on this list was its hidden ability, Protean, which means that it changes its type every time it uses a different move based on that move's type. So it always has stab no matter what move it uses and makes it really an unpredictable Pokemon in the field of battle. Um, just like an actual ninja, you don't know what a ninja is. You don't know. I mean, it's fast like a ninja and it's unpredictable like a ninja. Like it actually does really fit into that um, ninja, thief, scoundrel class that the three starters have been based off of, and that's the class I usually go with. I'm very much of a sneak and attack person. Um, very when I play games like that, that's usually the role I play. Um, if I'm not being like, normally in an MMO kind of situation, I'd be a healer just because that's how I roll. That's the kind of position I like. But if I'm playing something like Skyrim or something, I do tend to go with a Greninja-like character. Um, and that would be why Greninja is number 31.